everything is spinning.
All things are in motion, and all things are spinning.
Spin is everywhere. Spin is in everything you see. Spin is what makes an atom an atom. Spin is what makes the Earth go round.
Everything has rotation and spin, which is accepted in science, but it's not explained.
To describe why it's spinning and why that spin is so important to keep everything in the dynamic system that it is, that's putting spin back into the equations, because spin is fundamentally at the foundation of why everything works the way it works.
We are reaching a point in our evolution in humanity where we have to transcend our current understanding of the physics of the universe and reach a new level, a unified level of physics, where we have a whole view, a holistic view, a complete view of the physics of the universe that includes the fundamental forces of nature instead of fighting nature, which results in most of the destruction that we see around us on the planet.
It's necessary for us to come together on some kind of unified understanding of all of the structures that we see in our universe and all of the dynamics that we see in nature. And the reason it's so fundamental for us to have that is because we're a part of that cycle. We're not separate.
One of the problems in physics is relativity describes big things and quantum mechanics describes small things. And we've yet to come up with a consistent theory that yields a connection between them both.
So what we're looking at in the unified field theory is to better describe what these forces are, what their origin are, in terms of the structure of the space-time manifold.
So if this comes out, we have a way to unify the big with the small.
When quantum mechanics started gaining fame, instead of using intuition and common sense and visualization of the natural world, they went to mathematics. And in describing physical reality in terms of mathematics, they lost a lot.
Our physics has become very complex, very obscure. And most of the complexity that occurs in quantum theory and relativistic physics and so on are the result of us putting patches upon patches upon patches to make the theory match what we observe. And then they get more and more complex, more and more obscure, more and more difficult to work with, and they produce less and less valuable application to the advancements of humanity because they're obscure and too complex and most likely incorrect. When you just change a fundamental aspect of a theory and make it correct, like Copernicus thinking that our solar system may not be geocentric but heliocentric with the sun at the center, then everything becomes simple and beautiful again. And I believe that by giving an appropriate accounting of the spin of all things, which I call heliocentric, driven by a torque which describe the fundamental forces of spin, we actually unlock that simple change in our physics that brings us to a whole new level of physics, which is beautiful and simple and can bring us to a whole new way of existing and interacting with the universe.
We're looking at a theoretical and experimental work that displays and shows this intimacy of connection, that we are all interconnected.
That we are all interconnected. We are all part of the same fabric. We're all part of the same geometry. Our molecules, the cosmos, everything, from very, very small to very, very large.
We're all fundamentally made of the same thing as anything else in the universe. We're all made of stardust. All of those atoms and particles that come together to make my being, or your being, or a rock or a tree, initially came from a star.
It's like a fractal. Fractal, you can have the same geometry, but the geometry go very, very small and still have the same geometry, or you can take the geometry and go very, very large. It's the same fundamental geometry.
And these fractal concepts and geometric concepts of nature produce these higher level of understanding and higher level of mathematics in the description of the physics of creation. Every atom can be divided in smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. We have now produced particles that are billions of times smaller than the atom itself. And so we can actually talk about infinite divisions of the vacuum itself.
The vacuum that binds all particles and any body together doesn't merely stop at the boundary of that body, but it extends into the depths of the universe, and it has influence on every other body that it comes into contact with.
The vacuum is superconductive, superfluid media in which the structure of it permits information to move across infinite amount of scales instantaneously.
The ancient ones always had this idea, as above, so below. Their common sense, their everyday experience could be interpreted as this is a reflection of what's very, very small and a reflection of what's very, very large.
And so no two things are truly separate.
My approach to eventually advanced physics was through the study of ancient texts and ancient civilization all around the world and finding correlations to already present advanced physics concepts and then moving forward with these concepts and the knowledge of ancient civilization to produce a new level of physics that is more complete and unified.
The beauty of a better model is that it opens up doors that the old model can't see.
This new model of physics really is built on the shoulders of giants. It's built on the shoulders of Newton, of Einstein, of Bohr. And I took what was available and looked into it really deeply, and I found the good in it, and then I found as well what was missing. All these theories are missing a fundamental source for the spin of all things, meaning none of these theories explain why the electrons spin, why the planets spin, why the galaxies spin, or even why our solar system is spinning.
There's a platitude going around that says, what makes the world go around? And some people will answer, money. His answer will be torque, Coriolis effect, energy to make it spin.
The same force that holds all things together also drives them into motion, and this fundamental spin to things allows energy to move freely throughout all bodies in the universe or in any system.
What we're saying in this new theory is that there is a fundamental force of angular momentum in the space-time manifold itself, in the vacuum itself, that forces everything to spin. And that force is a torque term that we've added to Einstein field equations. It says that space-time doesn't just curve, but it twists, it curls at the same time, and that the force that forces space-time to curl is a torque that's embedded in the structure of space-time itself, and that everything spins as a result of that force being present in the space-time manifold. And so it is literally Einstein with a twist.